Okay, here we go, our Firefly. So I'll start off just by combing through the hair. I'll section out the right side. I'll begin the right side by combing out a diagonal section. I'll elevate the hair, over direct it forward, and cut in my guideline. The next progressive section again is diagonal. I increase my elevation with each section. I'm over directing the hair consistently forward and just working off a clean guideline, making sure you can always see your guideline, making sure that it's super clear and clean. My next diagonal section, again, increase elevation, and remember, at the parietal area, that's where we intend to build our weight. So still working with progressive sections, over directing the hair to the exact same point, have my fingers, elbows, shears all parallel. And now with this next section, it incorporates into the back area. So I work my guideline from the front and I'm working with a large diagonal section. And through the back, I begin cutting a shape that goes from longer to shorter. And make sure your over direction is consistent as to the over direction with your guideline. Okay, so our next progressive section, again, we have to maintain our elevation. So I'll angle my fingers and I'll continue to cut in my shape. So here it's best when you're cutting this large section to break it into smaller, more manageable pieces, and make sure that you're standing slightly in front of what you're cutting, so that'll allow you to keep your fingers high and your elbows low. You want to angle your elbow towards the opposite shoulder. So first I'll let my comb create the shape that I want to cut, and then I'll just simply place my fingers behind my comb. And as my comb breaks into a steeper angle, I just have my finger follow it. So the next section, again, I'll increase my elevation, working in small, manageable sections. Make sure here that you're combing the hair super clean from roots to your guideline. Ensure that your fingers are up, elbows are down while you're cutting the left side of the shape. Have your body move along with your sections. I want my center of body to be balanced to the center of that section. So notice how when I began the section, I was standing by her eyebrow, and as I finish the section, I'll just be slightly right of the occipital bone. So just keep on working in that angle. So now again, my sections at the parietal area begin at the front and I work my way backwards. Make sure you're always working with clean sections. Comb the hair super straight, over direct the hair forward, cut the hair following your guideline, and at this parietal area, through the sides, I'm building my weight. So I'm holding my weight there. I want to build up some heaviness because that geometric shape looks super awesome. Now, as I get to the round of the head, I change my body position, and here my shoulders are high to low, fingers high, elbows aiming towards the shoulder again. And with each progressive area, I pivot my body slightly more towards the left. So this is a very fluid shape, so you have to make sure that you're constantly moving throughout this haircut. If you find yourself standing in one spot the entire time, you'll have a greater tendency to start over directing the hair way off. So again, beginning in the front, and I'm breaking this section into smaller, manageable sections. So as I cut the front area, I'm standing slightly behind what I'm cutting. And then once I finish this portion, I'll take a small step back. Again, staying on my guideline. So this next portion, I change my body position. So I'll work this area. Here I'm using a little bit less tension just to allow for any jumpy cowlicks. Fingers high, elbows low, elbows aiming towards the opposite shoulder. And I'm cutting in my graduated shape. And I pivot my body throughout this entire section. So just checking in this last area, and here I'm getting myself mentally prepared to do the exact same haircut on the opposite side. So again, starting on the opposite side, I'm working with diagonal sections. I over direct the hair forward, and I'm cutting in a graduated line between my fingers, so the shape goes from shorter to longer. Check for balance and symmetry. The next progressive section, you'll elevate slightly, still with the same amount of over direction. And as I cut the left side, I'm standing slightly in front of the nose, because at this position, I have greater control of how I stroke the hair. Working with small, manageable sections. Remember, at the parietal area, I'll start to build my weight. So the next section, I'll take the guideline from the side and I just continue the exact same angle. I have to make sure that the amount of elevation through the left rear is exactly the same as the right side. As you cut this area, keep your elbow high, fingers low. Next diagonal section, I'll again increase my elevation, following my guideline, and as you work this side, make sure that your elevation mimics the exact elevation on the opposite side. If you feel a bit iffy about your elevation during your cutting process, feel free to constantly go back and just check your balance between your fingers, because the sooner you find an error, the sooner you can adapt to it. So you don't have to go and like recut the entire side. So next section, again, I'm connecting to the sides, and at the parietal, I'm building on my weight. Elbows high, fingers low, same amount of over direction. Okay, and as I work towards the back, my body slightly steps progressively towards the back. So here again, same elevation. I'm starting to blend the opposite side with this section, so I'll get it at a corner. So see that corner there? That's where the two sides meet. So when I find that corner there, that geometrically tells me it's like a sign, like a street sign. It tells me that my shape is symmetrical. And you'll see how that I'll gradually be chasing that corner down where it sits balanced at the occipital bone. Beginning at the front, here I'm building my weight, so I'm elevating the hair to the exact same point. Now for the next area, I'll scoot just slightly more to the left, same amount of over direction. Again, I scoot more. Make sure you can always see a super clean guideline. If your guideline isn't clean while you're doing this technique, your elevation might be off, your over direction might be off. So there's certain reasons why your guideline may be off. So just adjust. You can shift that guideline around to where you find it where it's most evident, and then you know that's where you need to technically start cutting. So again, here around the bend of the head, consistent over direction. And just working your way in the same manner. Okay. Also, you need to mind map this technique. So before I cut out this section, as I'm actually combing it out, I already played it in my mind that I've already nailed this section perfectly. So once you run it through your mind and then you actually physically attempt it after, your margin of error reduces significantly. Combing the hair to natural fall, visual assessment. Next section again, here I'm building my weight so all the hair is over directed to the exact same point. Clean guideline, same over direction. And I progressively shift towards the back, elbows high, fingers low, fingers aiming towards the opposite shoulder. And I'm looking for that corner. When I find that corner, there we go. That's letting me know that my shape through the back is symmetrical. And when it's symmetrical, you'll find that corner right there. That's telling me that my shape is even. Because if my over direction or elevation was off, that corner would not sit right at the occipital bone. So that's a certain landmark you need to be aware of during this haircut. And now as I work through the top area, I section off according to her natural parting. And here I'm over directing every single hair to the exact same point where I'm building my weight. So again, same amount of over direction. And now as I work towards the round of the head, my elevation again is consistent I'm over directing to the exact same point. So when you're over directing to the exact same point, you will find a super thick, clear, crisp guideline because there's a lot of sections that meet at the exact same point. Okay, so again, beginning in the front, notice where I'm standing, slightly in front of the ear, over directing onto my guideline. And I'll shift my body position, still following my guideline. Here, again, we're building weight. And this time I shifted the chair instead of my body, but it's the same effect. And I'm just dusting in these lengths. Shift the chair again. So my body position, it moves. So now we begin on the opposite side. And again, we're building our weight. So as you're looking for your weight line, make sure that you comb the hair slow enough to give yourself ample time to discover where your guideline is most evident. If you're over directing too high or too low, you will find it very challenging to get your guideline, or your guideline will look really fuzzy. So where the guideline is most evident, that's where you need to start cutting. So now for the blow dry, I'll just go in it and I'll flat wrap probably 80% of this. And once I get to the longer lengths to the top, I'll start leafing the hair. But as I flat wrap, I like to push the hair in tons and tons of different directions so I get more of a fluid shape, and make sure the nozzle is always following the back of your paddle brush. As I flat wrap, I like to shift with my hips or shoulders. I don't like too much arm movement because it's exhausting. So I can get the same effect just by shifting my hips as opposed to like making these big gigantic arm movements. So here we go, the finish is almost done, so I just run my hands through it. I want to find out if there's any heaviness, any snags. So then once it's dry, I have to go through, and then I'll start cross-checking and refining my shape. Pulling my shape out, and I'll just texturize into the tips a bit, not over directing too far out. I'm trying to follow the same technical process as it was cut, and as I comb the hair out, if I find some awkward weight, I can just knock it down. But so far so good, so we're just chipping into the tips. And as I texturize the hair, I like to texturize it to the point where it's easily combed from roots to ends. And as I comb through the hair, if I find heaviness, then I know in that area I need to soften it out a bit more. So with each section, some areas need more texturizing, some areas need less. That's your discretion behind the chair. So again, just removing weight, not altering my shape. Always comb the hair to natural fall. Always be making visual assessments. Now you're looking for like awkward weight distribution, or sometimes cowlicks come into play. So you have to be aware of all these minute details. So just again, continuing to remove weight, softening up the shape. And take your time here. When you're working in shadows, watch the angles of the tips of your shears. If the angle is too intense, you will be taking down a tremendous amount of hair. If the angle is more minute, you're taking down less. So you can adapt that angle accordingly to the effect that you intend. So again, just combing through. And now to the fringe area, I won't texturize it too heavy, because once I'm done with the texturizing portion, I'll go through the front area and I'll just clean out my lines. So more hair is better than less hair this time around. Okay, so I'll comb the hair to natural fall. And I'll just start off and I'm just cutting in a super clean line. I like just use the bare tips of your shears while you're doing detail work. And I'll work in modules. I'll just do one area till it's proper, and I'll gradually work the next area. I don't try to work too much hair at the same time. And now at the ear area, allow for the ear. Don't use too much tension here. Just go in there and just clean it up, and then allow for the ear to protrude, and then go back and clean up more if you need to. You don't want to allow for the ear too much the first time around, because you may make a mistake. So it's kind of a dangerous area. So there's our clean line on one side. So here to the back, I'm just going to go in, I'm going to refine this shape. I'm not really taking down too much hair. I'm just polishing and refining, polishing and refining. I polish and refine until that line is super, 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 beyond super crisp. Okay, and there we go, our Firefly. Enjoy.